Cheselnick Book Club. Did you listen to the book on Audible like I did, Mother Night by Kurt Vonnegut Jr.? So it turns out that Audible does this weird thing where they leave out the introduction and the editor's note. They went straight to chapter one, but the introduction and the editor's note were very important. So I am going to read it to you. So since you prefer audiobooks, just kick back. Don't look at me, just listen. I'm going to read it to you. Okay, folks? So here is the introduction. This is the only story of mine whose moral I know. I don't think it's a marvelous moral. I simply happen to know what it is. We are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about what we pretend to be. My personal experience with Nazi monkey business was limited. There were some vile and lively Native American fascists in my hometown of Indianapolis during the 30s, and somebody slipped me a copy of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, I remember, which was supposed to be the Jews' secret plan for taking over the world. And I remember some laughs about my aunt, too, who married a German and who had to write to Indianapolis for proofs that she had no Jewish blood. The Indianapolis mayor knew her from high school and dancing school, so he had fun putting ribbons and official seals all over the documents the Germans required, which made them look like 18th century peace treaties. After a while, the war came, and I was in it, and I was captured, so I got to see a little of Germany from inside while the war was still going on. I was a private, a battalion scout, and under the terms of the Geneva Convention, I had to work for my keep, which was good, not bad. I didn't have to stay in prison all the time, somewhere out in the countryside. I got to go to a city, which was Dresden, and to see the people and the things they did. There were about 100 of us in our particular work group, and we were put out as contract labor to a factory that was making a vitamin-enriched malt syrup for pregnant women. It tasted like thin honey laced with hickory smoke. It was good. I wish I had some right now. And the city was lovely, highly ornamented, like Paris, and untouched by war. It was supposedly an open city, not to be attacked, since there were no troop concentrations or war industries there. But high explosives were dropped on Dresden by American and British planes on the night of February 13th, 1945, just about 21 years ago, as I now write. There were no particular targets for the bombs. The hope was they would create a lot of kindling and drive firemen underground. And then hundreds of thousands of tiny incendiaries were scattered over the kindling, like seeds on freshly turned loam. More bombs were dropped to keep firemen in their holes, and all the little fires grew, joined one another, became one apocalyptic flame. Hey, presto, firestorm. It was the largest massacre in European history, by the way. And so what? We didn't get to see the firestorm. We were in a cool meat locker under a slaughterhouse with our 6 guards and ranks of dressed cadavers of cattle, pigs, horses, and sheep. We heard the bombs walking around up there. Now and then there would be a gentle shower of calcimine. If we had gone above to take a look, we would have been turned into artifacts, characteristic of firestorms, seeming pieces of charred firewood 2 or 3 feet long, ridiculously small human beings or jumbo fried grasshoppers, if you will. The malt syrup factory was gone. Everything was gone but the cellars, where 135,000 Hansels and Gretels had been baked like gingerbread men. So we were put to work as corpse miners, breaking into shelters, bringing bodies out. And I got to see many German types of all ages as death had found them, usually with valuables in their laps. Sometimes relatives would come to watch us dig. They were interesting too. So much for Nazis and me. If I had been born in Germany, I suppose, I would have been a Nazi, bopping Jews and gypsies and Poles around, leaving boots sticking out of the snowbanks, warming myself with my secretly virtuous insides. So it goes. There's another clear moral to this tale, now that I think about it. When you're dead, you're dead. And yet another moral occurs to me now. Make love when you can. It's good for you. Iowa City, 1966. Okay, so there's also an editor's note coming, but a couple really quick things really quickly. He says the line, so it goes. If you haven't read Slaughterhouse 5 yet, That's what he's most known for. That book is amazing. So he keeps saying, "So it goes." So like when everything's just horrible, so it goes. What else was interesting in there? Okay, so that's all true that Vonnegut was in Dresden and he survived merely because he was underneath a slaughterhouse. So make sure you do a little research and check out the Wikipedia about Vonnegut because he actually was there during the Dresden bombing. Okay, we're about to read the editor's note. Oh, quick thing. The reason I knew that there was no introduction or editor's note, because I had recently read The Sun Also Rises, and they left out the same thing, like the introduction where there's a quote that makes the whole title make sense. It was like some quote from Ecclesiastes that says like, the sun also rises. And without that, the whole book is kind of like, wait, why is that the title? I don't know why they leave these things out. Audible, what's wrong with you? Okay, so on to the editor's note. Ahem. In preparing this, the American edition, in preparing this, the American edition of the Confessions of Howard W. Campbell, Jr., I have to deal with writings concerned with more than mere informing or deceiving, as the case may be. Campbell was a writer as well as a person accused of extremely serious crimes, a one-time playwright of moderate reputation. To say that he was a writer is to say that the demands of art alone were enough to make him lie, and to lie without seeing any harm to it. To say that he was a playwright is to offer an even harsher warning to the reader, for no one is better liar than a man who has warped lives and passions onto something as grotesquely artificial as a stage. And now that I have said that about lying, I will risk the opinion that lies told for the sake of artistic effect, in the theater, for instance, and in Campbell's Confessions, perhaps, can be, in a higher sense, the most beguiling forms of truth. I don't care to argue the point. My duties as an editor are in no sense polemic. They are simply to pass on, in the most satisfactory style, the confessions of Campbell. As for my own tinkering with the text, they are few. I have corrected some spelling, removed some exclamation points, and all the italics are mine. I have in several instances changed names in order to spare embarrassment, or worse, to innocent persons still living. The names Bernard B. O'Hare, Harold J. Sparrow, and Dr. Abraham Epstein, for instance, are fictitious insofar as this account goes. Also, fictitious are Sparrow's Army serial number and the title I have given to an American Legion post in the text. There is no Francis X, Donovan Post, or the American Legion in Brookline. There is one point at which my accuracy, rather than the accuracy of Howard W. Campbell, Jr., can be questioned. That point is in chapter 22, in which Campbell quotes 3 of his poems in both English and German. In his manuscript, the English versions are perfectly clear. The German versions, however, recalled from memory by Campbell, are so hacked up and smeary with revisions as to be illegible, as often as not. Campbell was proud of himself as a writer in German, indifferent to his skill in English. In trying to justify his pride in German, he worked over the German versions of the poems again and again and again, and was apparently never satisfied with them. So, in order to offer some idea in this edition as to what the poems were like in German, I have had to commission a delicate job of restoration. The person who did this job, who made vases out of shards, so to speak, was Mrs. Theodore Rowley of Cotuit, Massachusetts, a fine linguist and a respectable poetess in her own right. I have made significant cuts in only 2 places. In chapter 39, I have made a cut that was insisted upon by my publisher's lawyer. In the original of that chapter, Campbell has one of the iron guardsmen of the White Sons of the American Constitution shouting at a G-man, "I'm a better American than you are. My father invented I am an American Day." Witnesses agree that such a claim was made, but made without any apparent basis in fact. The lawyer's feeling is that to reproduce the claim in the body of the text would be to slander those persons who really did invent I am an American Day. In the chapter, incidentally, Campbell is, according to witnesses, at his most accurate in reporting exactly what was said. The actual death speech of Ressie Knock, all agree, is reproduced by Campbell word for word. The only other cutting I have done is in chapter 23, which is pornographic in the original. I would have considered myself honor bound to present the chapter unbowdlerized were it not for Campbell's request, right in the body of the text, that some editor perform the emasculation. The title of the book is Campbell's. It is taken from a speech by Mephistopheles in Ghost Faust, as translated by Carlisle F. McIntyre, New Directions, 1941. The speech is this: I am I am part of the part that at first was all, part of the darkness that gave birth to light, that supercilious light which now disputes with Mother Night her ancient rank in space, and yet cannot succeed. No matter how it struggles, it sticks to matter and can't get free. Light flows from substance, makes it beautiful. Solids can check its path, so I hope it won't be long till light and the world's stuff are destroyed together. The dedication of the book is Campbell's too. Of the dedication, Campbell wrote this in a chapter he later discarded. Before seeing what sort of book I was going to have here, I wrote the dedication to Matahari. She whored in the interest of espionage, and so did I. Ah, 1 second. I just lost where I was at. Okay. Okay, we're almost done with it. Again, the dedication of the book is Campbell's too. Of the dedication, Campbell wrote this in the chapter he later discarded. Before seeing what sort of book I was going to have here, I wrote the dedication to Matahari. She whored in the interest of espionage, and so did I. Now that I've seen, wait, this is still more of his quote. Oh, this is still, um, this is still the dedication of the book that Campbell wrote, that he later discarded. Now that I've seen some of the book, I would prefer to dedicate it to someone less exotic, less fantastic, more contemporary, less of a creature of silent film. I would prefer to dedicate it to one familiar person, male or female, widely known to have done evil while saying to himself, a very good me, the real me, a me made in heaven, is hidden deep inside. I can think of many examples, could rattle them off after the fashion of a Gilbert and Sullivan pattern song, but there's no single name to which I might aptly dedicate this book, unless it would be my own. Let me honor myself in that fashion then. This book is rededicated to Howard W. Campbell Jr., a man who served evil to openly and good too secretly. The crimes of his times. Kurt Vonnegut Jr. Okay, so that was all pretty relevant, and I wish they would have included that in the Audible version. What else? Okay, that's about it. Oh, on a side note, I hope that the Jesselnick Book Club eventually does The Sun Also Rises. I think that's going to be great. Okay, cool. Peace and love.